One of the biggest challenges that students face is being able to comprehend any form of a text and then answering some type of questions. They may be literal questions, they might be inferential questions, or they might be using the reading passage to comprise some form of a written response. So a text-dependent analysis or a constructed response. In this video, I have a special guest with me, and we're going to be showing you a very simple strategy that you can implement inside of your classroom called road mapping. So what is road mapping? Road mapping is essentially taking the idea of summarizing and being able to articulate what is happening within a text within short phrases. And we're keeping these very, very short. And road mapping allows students to be able to track their thinking and what is happening within the text. And then it gives them this really beautiful map of what's happening that allows them to go back and to reference their paper a little more easily. So I'm gonna show you, and so is Blaine. Blaine, can you wave to the camera? Say hi.
Hello.
So Blaine is my son, and he is going to be participating in this activity with me, and I'm going to show you how I would teach this to my students. So he has never experienced road mapping. He has no idea what it is, and I'm going to show you the process of how I would introduce this, how I would model this for them, and then how I would have him do some form of practice. What's beautiful about road mapping is that you can teach this very, very early on within the school year, and you can continuously revamp and come back to this strategy over and over and over again, because it's going to assist them in anything. It can be literature, it can be informational, it might be for test taking strategies, or it can be something to help them with their research process. Whatever it might be, this is a really simple strategy, and the effect size when we're looking at Hades effect sizes is very, very high. And so what that means is basically when students are summarizing and they're able to articulate what's happening in the text in their own words, it's actually going to increase the opportunities of learning for them. So we're going to see more growth when they have this ability to be able to summarize as they move along. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce this to Blaine. So I am going to now kind of turn into teacher mode, and he is going to hear what road mapping is for the very first time. And then I'm going to offer some form of modeling up here. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to introduce a brand new strategy to you today. It's called road mapping. Have you ever been on a road trip, like in the car for a really long period of time?
Yeah.
You have? Okay, perfect. So when you get into the car and you go on these really, really long road trips, typically you might stop at some other really cool places along the way because it's a really long road trip, right? Nobody can really sit in the car for an extended period of time. And so what happens is everybody piles into the car. So we're going to use our family. So you're in the car, Ian's in the car, Dad is in the car, I'm in the car, and we're driving along. But as we're driving along to get to our destination, let's say we want to go to the Grand Canyon. So as we're driving to get all the way to the Grand Canyon, all of a sudden, Dad sees a huge sign, and the sign says, Golf Museum, World's Greatest Golf Memorabilia. And he loves golf. And so you know what he's going to end up saying. He's going to be like, wait, we got to stop. We have to stop at this cool golf museum. And so we exit, we get off of the road, we head over to the golf museum. As soon as we get out to the golf museum, I take out my phone and I'm like, hey, get over there next to the sign. Let's all take a picture together. And then what do? Take a picture, right? And now I have a picture of us at this golf museum. So after we're done, we all pile back into the car and we start driving. Remember, we're heading to where are we going? The Grand Canyon. So we're all driving. And then all of a sudden, Ian sees that there is like this Godzilla museum. Okay, he's like, Mom, there's these Godzilla museums. We have to stop. Like, this is so cool. And so Blaine is like, I'm totally here for that. Like, we definitely need to stop. Mom, please, can we please stop? And so guess what? We're like, okay, come on, we have to stop. And so we all head off to the exit. And as soon as we get to this museum, what do? We come together in front of the sign and we take a picture. And then afterwards, we all head back into the car. So again, we're all driving towards the Grand Canyon. And as we're getting to the Grand Canyon, all of a sudden, I see that there is this cookie shop. A cookie shop I have never seen in the world. And you know me, I love cookies. And so I have to stop and get a cookie. Like, I have a sweet tooth. I love cookies. So what do? We stop. And then while we're at this cookie shop, we're like, okay, let's take a picture, guys. So we all have our big, huge face cookies. And then we take a picture. And then we jump right back into the car. And we're heading to the Grand Canyon. And on our way to the Grand Canyon, Blaine sees that there is this high quality racetrack where he gets to ride these cool race cars. And he's like, Mom, please, can I stop here? I really, really want to see this. And then because we all love Blaine, we were like, oh, fine, let's stop. So we stop. We exit, get off, we stop at this racetrack. And then while we're there, Mom takes a picture. And then once we're done, we all jump back into the car. And we're driving to the Grand Canyon. And finally, after so much time, we make it to the Grand Canyon. So we're out at the Grand Canyon and we take a picture. And then we head back home. And while we're back home, Hetty comes over and she's like, oh my gosh, how was your trip? How did it go? And we're like, oh, we took a lot of pictures. Let me show you what we did. Do you remember the first place that we stopped at that Dad really wanted to stop at?
Golf Museum.
Okay. And then all of a sudden we jump back in and Ian sees a
Godzilla Museum.
And then we get back in the car and then Mom finds a
Cookie store.
And then we get back in the car and then Blaine finds a
racetrack.
And we get back in the car and then finally we make it to the
Grand Canyon.
And you told me everything we did because each time we had a what?
A
picture. And so when we read texts, we have to almost make a picture and create these little pictures as we go and we're reading so that we can remember what is happening in these texts. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, okay? And we're going to road map this the whole time. So the story itself is called Lowell Mill Girls, and actually it's an informational text. And we're starting with an informational text here because informational tends to be a little bit easier organized. So when you're first doing this with your students, use an informational text because the paragraphs are nice and neat. As you start to go through and introduce fictional text, and there's like lots of dialogue, and there's like 1 or 2 lines for each of these paragraphs, it starts to get a little finicky. And so you have to really explicitly model for students what to do. But when you're first introducing the strategy, focus on just using that informational piece. So the informational text is called Lowell Mill Girls. Can you say that with me? Lowell Mill Girls. And this is going to be a text that you're going to read about the Lowell Mill Girls and the jobs that they did a very long time ago, okay? So what you're going to do is I want you to follow along as I read it. And as I read this, I'm going to stop at certain words and I want you to say the words with me, or for me, rather, okay? So let's try this out and I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to read, for many
years.
Perfect. Cloth was made using
simple
tools in people's homes. But in the early 1800s, a man named Francis Cabot Lowell opened the first textile mills that
brought
together all the
machines
needed to turn raw cotton into
cloth.
The mills required a lot of workers to keep the machines running, but there were not enough boys and men available. So they recruited young
women
from farms in the area. These women soon became known as the Lowell Mill Girls. So when I'm doing my road mapping, I'm really looking for some of these paragraphs because paragraphs are a great place for you to kind of stop and think about what's happening. But here's the trick. When we road map, we want to do things in like 3 to 5 words. How many? 3 to 5. No more than 5 words. So you really have to think hard about what's happening, who or what is in this paragraph, and then what's the action that's happening that I can place over here off to the side, okay? So this is my first stop, and I'm going to move this real quick. Let me do that here. So I'm going to write stop number 1. This is my first picture, and I'm going to model for you what this looks like. So in this paragraph, we know that people used to make a lot of their clothing at home. But then in the 1800s, this guy named Francis was like, wait a second, I'm going to bring like all these machines together and we're going to do it in this big factory. But did they have men and boys to do this? No. Who do they have to hire?
Woman.
A lot of women. So I think what I'm going to try to say here is that women were making cloth. What do you think? Women were making cloth. Because that hits on the fact that the women in the 1800s, they're making cloth in this factory, and it's women, it's not men and boys, right? So that's what I'm going to write down. I'm going to write women making cloth. And what I want you to do is I want you to pick up your pencil and I want you to do the same thing kind of off to the side here for yours. So you're going to have to write kind of small, or you can turn your paper around so that you can write it off to the side. So women making cloth. And as you're writing that, I just want you to listen. So I know that it's about women making cloth in this very first paragraph. And I want to identify what are some of those key details that I know support this. Well, it happened in the, let's see, what is it called? The 1800s. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to just circle the 1800s. I know that it was this guy. I don't know if he's really that important. So I'm just going to leave him off for right now. But they were turning raw cotton into cloth, right? They were women from farms, and they were known as the
low mill girls.
Okay. What do you notice about how much I'm underlining? Is it a lot?
No.
And they're really focused. Do all of these things support this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my first roadmap. Women making cloth. Okay? Now we're going to go to this next section. And I'm going to read this one out loud with you, okay? I'm just going to read it out loud for you. The low mill girls ran the looms and other machines in the factories. Even though they were paid only half of a man's salary, women flocked to these jobs. Do you know what the word flocked means?
Like, went to.
Yeah, when you're flocking, it is like a lot of people. Think of like birds. I want you to, in your head, picture a lot of birds together, and all those birds are like swarming to one location. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. That's what flocked is. So it's a lot of something that are going to one specific place. So all these women are flocking. It was a bunch of them all at the same time. So women flocked to these jobs. Some of them hoped to help their families back home financially. Others wanted the opportunity to live on their own. Okay, so this is my second roadmap. What do you think this is about? Who are we still talking about?
The low mill girls.
We're still talking about the low mill girls. But what do they talk a lot about here? So I'm going to kind of show you some things. I see the word paid. I see the word salary. I see the word financially. So what do you think all of this is about?
Like how much they make?
It maybe was about how much they make, but is it all about that though?
No.
Maybe it's just about them making money, right? Because when you make money, can you do certain things with your money? So I can help my family, and when I'm making money, I can make certain amounts of money. Like it kind of changes depending on the jobs that I do. So here, I might just say Making money. I want you to write that down on yours as well. Remember, how many words are we trying to keep this off to the side? 3 to 5 words.
Yeah.
So now what I want you to do is underline the pieces or circle them, whatever you want, that you think best fit and support making money. And I want to see what you come up with. What are those pieces that you feel like best support?
Should I use one of these?
It's up to you. You can choose whatever you want. It gave you some cool tools there. Think about this right here. Do you think that that might be important? What do you think? Do you think that's important?
Yeah. It just says how much they make.
Yeah. Why do you think they were only getting paid half? Think about it.
Because they think they're less important.
What time frame are we looking at?
1800s.
Yeah. Did women have a ton of rights in the 1800s?
Nope.
No, they didn't. So I think that's going to be a really important thing. Half of a man's salary. But they also wanted to what?
Help their families.
Help their families. And in order to do that, they wanted to help them how?
Financially.
Financially. And a lot of people just wanted to be on their
own.
And in order to be on your own, can you do that without money?
No.
No. So what do you have to have?
Money.
You have to have money and you have to have a job. That's important. So I want you to think really quick. Where are we in our roadmap? What has happened so far? Tell me right now. Give me the 2 things that have happened so far.
They were trying to make cloth.
Yep.
The women were making cloth.
Okay. What was the next thing?
And then they were talking about how much they make.
Women making money, right? Just making money. Perfect. So that's our roadmap. That's kind of the sequence that we've done so far. So now I want us to go to the next page. So now we have this next page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this next paragraph with you. But this time I'm going to have you think about 3 to 5 words that really focus in. And we'll talk about it before I let you do that by yourself, okay? So reading this with me, and I'm going to stop at certain words and I want you to chime in. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They worked long
hours
under
difficult
conditions. There was little sunlight coming through the tiny windows. From 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., the
machines
churned out smoke and terrible noise. Even during the summer, the factory
windows
were kept closed to preserve the thread, and the women were surrounded by sweltering heat. What do you think that word sweltering means?
Incredibly hot.
Incredibly hot. I want you to take no breathing. Don't breathe. Just suck it in. Feel better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's incredibly hot here. So I want you to think about it. Let's figure out what are some of those key words that we can see in here. Well, they're talking about there not being a lot of what?
Sunlight.
Okay, what else are they talking about?
How long they work.
They were working really long hours. What else? What about the machines did they mention?
Like noisy and
yeah,
smoky.
Lots of smoke, lots of noise. Do you feel like you would enjoy that?
No.
It wouldn't be very fun to be working in a place that had a lot of smoke and noise. And on top of that, it was really what?
Hot.
Okay, so I want you to think about everything we just mentioned here. What are maybe 3 to 5 words that you can use to describe this paragraph?
Hot.
I don't want you to use those. I want you to think about their working.
Oh.
The place that they were working in. Reread that first sentence for me.
They worked long hours under difficult conditions.
What does that mean, conditions?
Like hot and cold.
Huh?
Hot and cold.
Lots of things, right? Like where they were working, how it felt, what it was like. Do you think that everything else fits under that word?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? How
Tiny
could we...
windows and barely any, like, comes in.
So I want you to think about that word conditions, because I think that's an important word here. What conditions are they in? Where are they? Is it their home conditions?
No, they're work conditions.
Their work conditions. Do you think this entire paragraph fits the work conditions?
Yeah.
So what can we put for our roadmap over here off to the side?
Conditions of
Work.
their work.
Yeah, you can do it that way as well. I'm just going to write work conditions, but you can write conditions of work. That's fine as on top of that. Remember, 3 to 5 words. We want to try to keep it as short as possible. So what are some of the details that we can underline to support that work conditions? I want you to highlight or underline those. What are some of those details? Okay, perfect. So I saw you do little sunlight. They churned out smoke. You did terrible noise. And then I think you did sweltering heat as well. Yeah?
Yeah.
Any other ones?
You could do.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're
Besides
good.
for how long they work.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's look at the next paragraph together. Now this time, what I want you to do is I want you to read the paragraph, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards. Okay? So now you're going to read that paragraph quietly to yourself, and then I'm going to read it up here to myself. I want you to take a deep breath and then drink more. Take a deep breath and then drink. Deep breath. Keep going as much as you can.
Done.
Okay. So what are some of the things that you notice? What were some of the things that they talked about?
They were talking about how, like, they can't leave the house.
Okay. What else?
And
They had that what? What do they call them?
strict rules.
Yeah. What else did you learn about in this paragraph?
Everyone, no one was allowed to leave past 10.
Okay. What else?
5 or 6 women might be cramped.
In what?
One bedroom.
Could you imagine your bedroom with 5 and 6 people living in it? And then I want you to look at the first 2 sentences. What are some of the key pieces that you see there?
20 to 30 women would live together in one house.
Wow. We have 4 people living together, 5 if you count Walter. And in these houses, they had how many?
They had 20 to 30.
20 to 30 people. What else did you notice? Look at that first
They
sentence.
live year round.
They lived there year round. So did they live at home when they worked there?
Nope.
They did not. So what do you think all of this is about?
How
3 to 5 words. 3 to 5 words. I want you to think of those words first and count the words as you say it. I have 3. What did you come up with?
Terrible workplace?
But is it about their workplace?
Kind of.
Up above was their workplace. This wasn't where they worked. This was where they what?
Live.
Okay.
Terrible house condition.
Okay. Do you know if they thought it was terrible?
Well, it sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible, but that's your opinion. So I want you to think of it this way. If you look up here they say the word terrible, right? So it's easy to kind of say that. Here, they don't really mention that. They don't say terrible, but it is about their what?
Life.
Kind of. It's about where they
Lived.
It's about where they lived. So if we look at every single one of these details, it's where they lived. So my next roadmap is what? Where
they lived.
They lived. Where they lived. So an opportunity while students are writing and they're taking notes, because you want them to engage in this process, is as the teacher, you would be walking around and making sure that you're checking their work and that they're writing the things down correctly. So making sure that you're spending that time. And while I have Blaine who is engaging with me and we're having a conversation, when you have a classroom of 20 to 25 students, it's really hard to hear what they all want to say as far as their phrases. So an easy way to kind of remedy this and to build in that active engagement is to provide them with a dry erase board. And so every student, after they thought about their 3 to 5 words that they want to create for their roadmap, they would write it down, and you could be walking around providing feedback right then and there. And then they would hold it up and you can allow students to be able to share. What's beautiful about this is that this is not the only answer. So students can reword things and you can write down other options for them as well. So they can hear a lot of different perspectives. So Blaine, here's what I want you to do now. Let's kind of do a little road trip again. First stop, what was it about?
It was about Dad wanting to go to...
No, I'm talking about the Low Mill Girls.
Oh.
So first stop on the Low Mill Girls. What was the stop? What happened in that first part of that text?
Can I look?
Mm-hmm.
Woman making cloth.
Okay, so that was all about them making cloth.
Yeah.
Because they opened a what?
Cloth factory.
Okay, and this was around when again?
1800.
Perfect. So the second paragraph, our second stop, was what?
Was making their money.
Yeah, and what was really significant about them making money?
Because it was
Did
harder
they-
for them.
Yeah, did they make a lot of it?
No.
Absolutely not. All right, stop 3. Where are we at? What happened in stop 3? What was it telling us about?
Their work conditions.
Oh man, and they were what?
Like uncomfortable.
They were not great, were they? All right, fourth stop. Where are we at? So what happened?
Where they lived.
It was all about where they lived.
Super
Was it
cramped.
great?
No.
Crammed, lots of
strict
people.
rules.
Man, that's hard. Okay, so now we're going to do this next stop. And so I want you to do the same thing. We're going to read this next paragraph. I want you to read it quietly, and then we're going to come back and discuss it together.
I'm done.
Okay, now I
That's
want you to
a lot.
think for a minute. Thinking really hard for a minute. 3 to 5 words, Blaine. 3 to 5 words. So be thinking, what was the author trying to tell me about here? Think about that for a second.
It was about like some girls going to Lowell.
So you're being really specific. I want you to think big and broad. So let me give you an example. In this first one over here, they talk about the work conditions. Here, they talk about where they live. What do they talk about here?
how long they would work then?
Is it about them working?
Or what they would do in their free time?
Bingo, buddy. Boom.
That was an awkward handshake. Let me fist bump.
Boom. So in this one, how do we want to word it? Think about it. You just said it. Let's put it in 3 to 5 words. I can do it in 3.
Free time.
Ooh, you did it. Okay. Free time. So you could do free time, what they did in their free time. So what do we know about their free time? What are some of the things that we can highlight?
Math.
Huh?
Math.
Okay. Why would they want to do math problems during their free time? I don't know. What else?
Songs.
Right? And where did they get these songs and poems from?
The workers.
Yeah, close. But who? It was from a what?
A magazine.
A magazine. Who printed the magazine? Who printed that magazine? Look at the beginning of that sentence.
The mill company.
Yeah, exactly. What else? Do you think that's really important?
I'm trying to look for the math.
It's up here, buddy.
Got it.
What else do you think is really important?
Reading.
Okay, they did some reading. Do you know what I found really important?
The city library.
Yeah, they could do that too. But you know what? Down here at the bottom, read that sentence.
But many of them had a hard time staying awake for these activities. There are 13-hour work.
They worked 13 hours. Do you think they did a lot of free stuff? Free time stuff?
No.
Probably not. Okay, let's do the next one. Same idea. I want you to read it independently and then we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Last one.
Okay.
Okay, so thinking really clear. There are some big things that happened here.
The woman went on strike.
They went on strike, but it wasn't all about them. It was about them trying to do what, though? We talked about this at the very beginning of this paper. That women didn't have
Make
a lot
cloth.
of what?
Cloth.
No.
Freedom. Wait, no.
Rights.
Yeah, freedom.
Do you think they were trying to fight for more?
Yeah.
So what do we think we could do with this one? 3 to 5 words.
Woman get right.
Okay, I like it. You could have also said fighting for rights. Ooh, I'm saying fighting apparently. So, fighting for rights. Fighting for rights. And that's key because the sales started to go down and what did they try to do? They tried to say, hey, we're not going to pay you as much because we're not selling as much, which is kind of messed up. And then they went on what?
Right.
Strike. But then they were able to lower the number of
Work hours.
Yep. And what else? They reduced it by 1 hour per day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now what I want us to do is I want us to do a roadmap. Ready? I want you to tell me, what is this text about? Let's start with number one. Nope, the whole thing. Number 1, what do we got?
Number 1's about them making cloth.
Okay, 2.
Making money.
3.
Work conditions.
4.
Where they lived.
Deep breath. 5.
Free time.
Yeah, what they did in their free time. And then what was the last one?
Women get rights.
Women getting more rights. Did they have all the rights?
No.
They were still in pretty bad conditions, but it was a lot what?
Better.
It was a lot better. So now at this point, this is the road mapping activity. And so what you could do is model for students how to utilize their new roadmap to be able to answer questions. And so you could present them with questions and tell them, like, where would you be able to locate the answers to these? So that it allows them to go back and say, let me look at my roadmap and see where I can find this answer. Now for this video, we're not going to go through this because it's mainly about helping to teach and introduce this idea of what road mapping is and how it can support students in their learning process. Hopefully you were able to get a little bit better insight into this, and also seeing how Blaine, somebody who has never seen this process at all, was able to start working through it. Was he perfect? Does he still have areas to grow in? Absolutely, but it's an introduction. I'm not expecting mastery in the very beginning, but you can already see his ability and his confidence level of understanding what the text is about. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Blaine, thank you so much for joining me on this. Did you enjoy this?
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this with me, buddy. I love you. That was a terrible high five. Let's try that again. Look at the elbow. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Let me know if you would like to see Blaine back for another episode where we can model some different strategies for you. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you are somebody new to this channel, and I will catch you all very soon. Bye. Say bye.
Bye-bye.
Right there.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good job.